If you've been watching this channel for a little while, then you might remember when I used to talk about a bunch of random stuff like books I was reading or anime or just like random games. I'm getting back into that, bro. So today let's talk about Red Rising. Red Rising is a book that if you're into sci-fi and if you go online and you look about, sci-fi books, you're going to hear about it. You're going to see everyone talking about it. From what I can tell, in terms of like pop literature, popular books, Red Rising series is the most popular sci-fi like of the last decade. It really seems like the only reason this series hasn't gotten a movie or a TV series is because it would be incredibly hard to do this as a TV show or a movie. So I'm not going to do any spoilers yet. I'll warn you if I decide to mention any spoilers. There is something that makes talking about the Red Rising series tricky, which is that there's a infamous twist. If anyone who's read the book, it's like a famous thing about the series. There's a twist fairly early on in the series, and your understanding of what's going on changes after that twist, right? So the premise going into book one, the non-spoiler, just like back of the book premise, is that, I should make sure I even remember. I'll just read it. His wife taken, his people enslaved, driven by a longing for justice and the memory of lost love, Darrow will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. Basically, there's no information there, right? The chapter one premise is that these guys are in an underground bunker on Mars, basically working as like coal miners, except the Mars version, to eventually make the surface livable so that humanity can like rise out of these mines and become, like able to live on the surface. So there's this idea that like, that's like the state of humanity. And as far as that's all there is, right? And then as you get into the book, things are revealed. What I want to say about this book is that I have really mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I can completely understand why this series is so popular, and let me explain some of those reasons why, but there's also other things that I really don't like about it. So what's good about this book is that it's super exciting. Every chapter has action in it. It feels like watching a TV show where every episode has, gunfire and explosions and fights, and like there's always something big going on. You're never waiting around for the action to start, really. There's pretty much like, something kind of crazy happens every 10 to 20 pages, pretty much. The writing style is also very easy to read. The first few chapters, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, it's written in the first person present tense. So it's like, I can like read a sentence or two just to give you an idea, like out of the first chapter of the first book. Despite the voices in my ear, I am alone in the deep tunnel. My existence is vibration, the echo of my own breath, and heat so thick and noxious, it feels like I'm swaddled in a heavy quilt of hot piss. It's randomly found a vulgar sentence there, but yeah, it's very present tense. I am doing this, I am doing that, this is happening, that's happening. And so I found that a little odd. It almost feels like, at first, it's like, is this going to be like reading fan fiction or something? Like the first person thing, I this, I that. I completely got used to that, though. The author's writing style works really well. It's clear that like he's just got a way of expressing himself in this particular style that works really well. The books have a lot of really good characters in them. Okay, I was getting really hot, so I had to take off that sweatshirt. The book has a lot of really good characters. In the first book, I felt like the characters were a bit one-dimensional, but they're still really interesting because he's really good at carving out like very distinct characters. I'd say that the characters, while a bit cartoonish in terms of being a little bit like exaggerated, like one character is like, the most vulgar and dirty and kind of like, in the dirt, just like grimy. And then another character is like the most beautiful and the greatest, the most, beautiful person that's ever lived. And this one's like the smartest person of all time. Everyone's got these like extreme characteristics, but it does create a lot of different character archetypes, which then when they go into conflict with each other, are really interesting. And I find that as the series goes on, the characters get a lot deeper and there's a lot more character development. Like it feels that in the first book, with a few exceptions, the characters kind of just stay the same. Like they're pretty much the same personality no matter what happens. But I feel like as the books go on, you do see more character growth and progression. The world building is really impressive too. And I guess At this point, if you like really want absolutely no spoilers, you should probably stop watching because I'm going to start to say some stuff that's a little bit more spoilery. At least it's going to reveal some of the world beyond the initial premise. But as the books go on and you get into space and the solar system and the space battles and stuff, like he does a really good job of building out this world that you just feel like you could go live in and travel around. Like you can really like imagine being in this world, and like there's these different conflicting, you know, like armies across these different planets, and like the political intrigue and the space opera of it all is really well done, I think. My biggest critique is that the second book felt a little bit slow. I feel like, I'm not going to get specific about it, but the first book sets things up at the end in a certain way where the second book kind of tears it all down almost immediately. So I finished the first book, I really enjoyed it, and then I start the second book, and within the first few chapters, like so much of the first book's ending has been undone. I found that a little frustrating, and the second book felt a little bit like, I don't know, just like, it's like the author, it felt a little bit artificial how the author kept like just making it so shitty. Like the challenges that the main character encountered and the way the main character and his crew were always in the shit just felt a little bit forced. Like, okay, anytime something good happens, it gets taken away and everything gets 10 times worse. Like the second book, I was a little bit like, I don't know, it didn't quite hit me the same. But the third book I felt was probably the best book of the whole series. I don't know, the first book is really special, but the third book was an amazing conclusion. So I really feel like the first and the third are great, and the second one, for me, just wasn't quite as good. I will say, without getting into any details, the end of the trilogy was awesome. I really felt that it was a satisfying ending. Just really brought everything together very well. And it's one thing I will say, I feel like the author deserves the success that they got, because there's so many authors who will start trilogies and it takes them 20 years to finish them. And this guy wrote a trilogy. I'm pretty sure Red Rising all the way to Morning Star is like a 3-year difference. Like he wrote this whole thing and published it within 3 years. So I think that's really impressive. And it's just really nice to have a series where like, oh, he wrote, 6 books in 10 years, as opposed to like, oh, the second book came out in 2013 and we're still waiting for the conclusion. There's a bunch of famous examples. Obviously, George R.R. Martin is the most extreme, with the TV show literally finishing and he still didn't write the next book yet. So it's for a pop literature sci-fi series, like it's so action packed, it's so quick, there's so much going on. But a few critiques that I did have. What didn't I like about it in general? Because there's so much action, it did in a certain way, like I got a little numb to it. Like some of the chapters are action packed in a way where I just wasn't feeling it, because it's like, okay, there's this action, like these characters are fighting, and then next chapter, oh my god, now there's a battle over there, and now, oh, this guy just betrayed you, oh wait, actually you just got saved by that person, I'm in love, oh never mind, they're dead, oh wait, no, they're still alive. Like sometimes it's so much that I become a little numb to it. It's like, it's just like there's that Mr. Beast video where they ride a roller coaster 1,000 times. Like sometimes reading this book, like going back to read another chapter felt like getting on the roller coaster for the 700th time. I'm just like, all right, I'm a little tired of the adrenaline, but there's enough of the action sequences and like the, intrigue and twists where enough of it is clever and enough of it does make me like actually laugh out loud or be like, oh shit, that's really cool. Like I didn't realize that was going to happen. Like, especially with no details given, the ending of the trilogy, the third book, there's a really sick twist. That's just like, oh shit, oh my god. Like it's so good. So when it works really well. And I suspect for people who aren't into like literature where it's like, oh, a 2-page description of a flower, like, for people who want an action-based book and they want, something that's easy to read and just exciting, I imagine the action is definitely more of a positive than a negative. For me, it just felt like it's so relentless that I guess I'm a little fancy. I like a book that like gives me a page of a flower or something. He walks through the forest and he just notices the beauty, and then a couple pages later something happens. I guess I'm a little fancy like that, but I gotta say, overall, the Red Rising series, this is a fantastic series. I feel like if you like sci-fi and you read occasionally, but you're not too much into reading, like, this is a good series because you're probably going to get hooked, and then you'll read a bunch of books. You'll probably read the whole thing. Like, it's great for people who enjoy reading and you like sci-fi, but you're not looking for the next Dostoevsky or something. You want something a little more immediate and a little more entertainment focused. Pierce Brown did a great job with this trilogy. I don't know if I'm going to read the next. There's another trilogy. It's a 7-book series. The final 7th book is coming. Not positive if I honestly want another 3 or 4 books of this. Like, it was good, but 3 books might have been enough. I feel like there's a good chance in time I'll get bored, I'll run out of books that I'm excited about, and I'll probably eventually read the 4th book. But if I do, it's probably going to be 6 to 12 months from now at least. Like, I'm going to give it a good break. It was a fun series, but I'm also a little relieved that I finished it because I wanted to finish it. But like I said, it's so much action that it was a good dose. That was enough for me for now, I think. I just started reading that Stephen King book, Under the Dome. I read like 70 pages today. I was so just like, yes, I'm ready for something a little different. So I don't know if I'll read the next trilogy, but honestly, I have to admit I'm tempted. So yeah, Red Rising trilogy. Is it good? Yes, it's really good. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10, super solid, enjoyable, well done, and the fact that the author is prolific and writes the books fairly quickly is a nice bonus in a world of slow releases and unfinished series. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching. See ya.